Alexander the Great became king of Macedonia in 336 BC. He used his military and political talents to defeat the Achaemenid Empire of Persia. This empire had dominated the Mediterranean region for over 2 centuries, expanding from India to Egypt and to the northern border of Greece. So how did Alexander the Great's conquest of Persia unfold? Alexander was born in 356 BC and raised in a noble family. His father, Philip II, trained him to be a skilled warrior, while the renowned philosopher Aristotle educated him in his early years. Thanks to this thorough preparation, Alexander became a great leader. One of Alexander's most important achievements was his victory over Darius III, the king of Persia, at the Battle of Gaugamela. This not only ended Persia's period of domination, but also marked the rise of a new empire, one in which Greek cultural influence was widely spread. King Philip contributed greatly to Alexander's greatness, leaving his son a formidable army with talented generals. But it was Alexander's outstanding leadership that led this army to victory over a powerful opponent like Persia. Before Alexander the Great's time, the Macedonians were not always seen as a formidable power. Important cities like Athens, Sparta, and Thebes in southern Greece even saw them as barbarians. However, Alexander's father, King Philip II, completely changed that context by reorganizing Macedonian society and military. King Philip completely rebuilt the Macedonian army from the ground up, incorporating professional forces including infantry, cavalry, and archers. He instituted a rigorous training regimen where noble youths began training at age 7 and were then assigned officer positions at age 18. One of Philip's greatest innovations was changing the main weaponry. Instead of the traditional 7-foot dory spear, the Macedonian army began using the sarissa, an 18 to 22-foot pike with an iron spearhead capable of piercing heavy armor and impaling oncoming cavalry. With these innovations, Philip not only made the Macedonian army a formidable force, but also laid the foundations for his son's era, helping Alexander become one of history's greatest leaders. With his newly reformed army, King Philip II marched south in 338 BC, defeating the allied forces of Athens and Thebes at the Battle of Chaeronea. This battle also saw the impressive emergence of Philip's 18-year-old son, Alexander, who led the Macedonian cavalry in breaching the Athenian line, contributing greatly to the victory. After gaining control mainland Greece, Philip planned to invade the Persian Empire but was assassinated before the plan came to fruition. This assassination propelled Alexander to the throne and principal commander of the Macedonian army. Alexander is said to have swiftly announced he would continue his father's objective. However, before invading Persia, Alexander had to deal with trouble at home. The city-states of Athens and Thebes would not accept Macedonian rule. The first challenge came from Thebes, but this ended after Alexander harshly suppressed it, including razing Thebes to the ground and selling the entire city into slavery, except for one house owned by descendants of his favorite poet. These threats were quashed by decisive force, demonstrating the inviolable might of the Macedonian army. Alexander realized that to rule Greece he needed to do more than rely on military might and intimidation. He reframed the war against Persia as retribution for Persia's earlier invasion of Greece. The Persian invasion had failed a century earlier, in part due to the courage of the 300 Spartan warriors at the Battle of Thermopylae. Alexander is said to have waged a propaganda campaign portraying the Macedonians as invading Persia on behalf of the Greeks, although Macedonia was not part of Greece and did not fight alongside Greece in the Greco-Persian Wars. He wanted the Greeks to believe he was invading Persia to punish the Persians for daring to invade Greece in the first place. Motivated by national pride or the lure of plunder, in 334 BC, Alexander led an army of 50,000 into Persian territory. There they faced the mightiest and best-trained army of the time, commanded by Persian King Darius III. Before Alexander began his conquest, the Persian Empire had already been weakened by civil war and other revolts. Meanwhile, Macedon was becoming a military superpower. After swiftly mustering a small force in the region near the town of Granicus, Alexander had his first real test against Darius and his royal Persian army near the coastal city of Issus. Darius intended to cut off Alexander's supply lines but chose the wrong location to fight, diminishing his numerical advantage. At the Battle of Issus, Alexander exploited speed and maneuverability to pull the enemy to one flank, opening a gap in the opponent's defensive line before attacking head-on with cavalry. Alexander led this charge himself, as he had done at Cheronea under his father's command. Darius was stunned and fled, leaving his army in disarray. After this battle, the two armies did not engage for 2 years. In the interim, Alexander conquered Egypt, while Darius prepared for the next encounter. Finally, they clashed at Gaugamela, an open area that allowed Darius to exploit his massive numerical superiority. Darius prepared meticulously for this battle, including smoothing the ground to improve the effectiveness of his scythed chariots, a signature Persian weapon. This plan was designed to enable these chariots to attack the Macedonians more effectively. Before the decisive battle at Gaugamela, Alexander chose an advantageous elevated position for his army to rest and fuel up. The Persians, fearing a surprise night attack, stayed up all night on alert, but no attack came. At dawn, the Macedonian army had the edge. Alexander deployed his army in a bow formation with the two wings curved backward for defense, massing troops heavily on the right wing to pressure Darius's left flank. Fearing for his left wing, Darius sent his 5,000 best cavalry to respond. Alexander counterattacked with a regiment of 1,500 mercenaries, tasked with holding the right flank position. Darius dispatched 10,000 more cavalry to the left wing. At this point, Darius ordered a frontal attack on the remainder of the Macedonian line, but it took time for his order to reach the left wing. Alexander successfully executed his strategy of fragmenting the Persian army, opening a gap in their center. Along with his highly drilled royal cavalry squadron, Alexander charged straight into Darius's defensive center. In a tense moment, they were surrounded, but Alexander's seasoned Sarissa regiments fought through. By now, the Persians were defeated and Darius fled. A few days later, while in hiding, Darius was killed by one of his own men. This man then brought Darius's head to Alexander as a gift, but was punished by Alexander for the betrayal. After his victory, Alexander declared himself the new king of Persia, marking the collapse of the Persian Empire. However, his reign was short-lived. After a great campaign of conquest, his army marched east and got as far as India before turning back home to Macedon. But Alexander never made it home. He died from a mysterious illness in Nebuchadnezzar II's palace in Babylon at just 32 years old.